Hello, Mike LaFleche here from Onshape. We'll begin in just a couple of minutes. Michael, if you are on the line, I just put a link in the chat here. And if you wanted to join me, if you wanted to introduce anything to the group, you'll be able to join and be live in the feed here as well. Got a couple more minutes here until we hit the top of the hour. But feel free to use the comments panel there. You should see the ability to post a message there in your viewer. If you have any questions or need me to stop or anything, just use the questions panel. Or if you feel like joining the session online and having a window of yourself pop up alongside me here, use the link that I just put in the chat there, and that will give you the full co-host ability to join me, and you can talk out loud as well. Okay, we got about one more. All right, it's 1 o'clock here in Boston, and I see we got about 10 people online here at the moment watching. So thank you for joining us here today. My name is Mike LaFleche. I'm from Onshape, the cloud native 3D CAD and PDM system. Today's session will be recorded, so you should be able to use this link to watch the recording at the end or share it with anybody else. I'm using the StreamYard platform. It's something I use for my podcasts and things like that. But I thought I'd use it for a demonstration here today to see how it worked out, and I think it'll be great. Nice to see the comments there, Joshua. Let's go. All right, let's do this. All right, I like it. All right, so let's get started. All right, Onshape. If you haven't heard of Onshape, full cloud native 3D CAD system, nothing to install on your computer, works on almost any device, right? iPad, Mac, things like that. Oh, here's Michael. Let me greetings, Paul. All right, and I'll give Michael just a second here to connect devices. I see he's trying to join. Michael is just asking to connect your audio and video. That's about it. So there's a 3-dot menu where you can, or your settings menu at the bottom. There's a gear icon where you can change your audio and video if need be. Just dawned on me at the last minute, Michael, that I should have given you co-host rights so you can say hello. But no worries if you can't pop in. It's okay. Yeah, yeah. If you're able to join, I'll pause then. All right, so I'll continue going. We had a discussion about some of the things that the group would like to see, so I'm going to try to address all of that as well during this live demonstration. This will be a live demonstration. So as I mentioned, it's a fully cloud native system, and it's Onshape is addressed to design some of the product development challenges that we've been hearing. I'm a longtime personal user of other CAD systems as well. I've used SolidWorks for, since SolidWorks 95. I obviously work for Onshape now. I worked for a SolidWorks reseller for 15 years, and I also worked in the real world at different design firms. But he'd been here at Onshape for 8 years now. The original team that founded Onshape was the original team that founded SolidWorks back in the day. So our CEO, all of our founding team, originally, were the SolidWorks founding team. Looks like Michael's having a little issue getting in. A bunch of other people are on. Appears Mike isn't picking up, so I'll just attend like everybody else. Is anybody else getting a spinny wheel? I'm looking at if anybody could just comment in to make sure that they're hearing this, that would be great, or seeing this. I'll change to a different window so you can see a window change. Make sure you see that. I'm so sorry, Michael, that you're having issues with that. Trying to think of a way around this for you, Michael. Perhaps a different web browser might do the trick. Okay, great. Thanks. I'm seeing good comments coming in. Okay. Well, I'll have the recording as well. My deep apologies, Michael. I hope we can resolve that. Okay. Anyway, so here's my Onshape account. When you sign in to Onshape, you're signing in as a user, right? So I'm going to sign out and sign in as a particular username, just like you would with anything like Google Docs or anything like that. You would sign in. Actually, one quick question before you get going. Yeah, let's Michael, if you sign in with that other link as a co-host again. I mean, it looked like you tried, but it didn't really work. I see you're in my screen, but it's showing devices not connected. There might be something blocking you from connecting your devices to the web browser. Might be some corporate thing, perhaps. But I'm gonna keep going. All right. So let's I'm gonna go through the design process of a product from beginning to end. A coffee grinder, just so you can kind of get a feel for how you would build things in Onshape, how you would import things and export things, how you would share and collaborate with one another. And if you just give me 1 second, I'm going to get a prop. Okay, got a prop. So I had this coffee grinder. So everybody can see. Let me go to this view here so you can see better. So I got this coffee grinder. Right, this coffee grinder, it's a nice stylish looking part. It's got a couple pieces, different materials. It's got blades. It's got standard parts in it, like a motor or something like that. So designing something like this typically requires lots of files, imports, things like that. With Onshape, we're going to take a slightly different approach. So I'm going to sign in as a user. Sign in as a person here named Mike the manager with his email address. And I'm signing in to my Onshape account, and I can see all of my documents that I've created or have been shared into. And this should feel and act like something like Google Docs, where you just sign in, you have everything there, you don't need to install anything, you can instantly share and work with one another. That's essentially what Onshape's all about. So I want to create a brand new document. And actually, before I open another document, let's show you what, just a little tour first. Onshape can build assemblies. It can work on uh, detailed part modeling here. Here's my initial layout for a virtual reality wand here that I constructed natively here within Onshape with a number of advanced surfacing tools, and was eventually able to get to the top level assembly here. I'm starting to work on the circuit board and things like that on this now. But you can also create drawings. You can get a bill of materials. It will calculate your mass. You can drill into the bill of materials, view this in different methods. It's a CAD system, right? but it's a CAD system made in a much more modern way that doesn't rely on files being passed around, which can lead to things being made incorrectly. If you pass a file around, the moment you pass that file out, it's instantly out of date. And if design changes happen that aren't communicated properly, or actions are taken, you all know the story. I don't need to belabor it. So let's go over here to the place where I'm going to create that blank grinder. I'm creating a coffee grinder. I don't know if it needs to be a part, assembly, or drawing. Like compared to many other CAD systems, you have to tell it that up front, right? You have to say, okay, I want to start with a part, assembly, drawing. I'm starting an Onshape document. A document's like an engineering notebook where you can start whipping in the shapes of your parts, one or more parts, and then you might assemble them together in that document, make drawings, import other things like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is this should not be an alien experience if you used any other parametric CAD system in the past. I am going to create a rectangle from that 0 point and say it's going to be 5 inches here, 4 inches here. It's converting the millimeters because that's my default work units in my document. But I was able to type in those units. I will whip in a spline, but you notice how we have different types of shapes, typical spline, Bezier spline. I'll just use a traditional spline because I like to whip it in through these points right here and use these handles kind of get this shape in place. So that kind of represents the bottom of my coffee grinder. And, I don't need these outside lines anymore. I'm not going to delete them. I'm going to keep them as reference just by converting them like that. And I like that shape. It looks good. And I want another shape just like it, offset at 6 inches. I take that and I can take this exact sketch that I had created before and offset it inward by 3/8 of an inch. And all I need to do is just connect dots on the end. You can see what we got. And I'll just make this and this line up. There's keyboard shortcuts in Onshape. So here's your keyboard shortcuts section right here. If you have any questions, please use the chat tool. Happy to go down any path we want, but I want to give you the day in the life of how I would design this product with a team of people. Okay, that's what I want to do, and I'm going to answer some questions that I also received ahead of time. So we have those two shapes. Looking good. Okay, I've used the letter P on my keyboard, turned my planes on and off, and I'm going to loft. We have all the standard tools, extrude, revolve, right? If I hit extrude, I'd be able to hit that. But notice you can do solid, surface, even thin extrudes, right? There's a surface extrude. And then here's a solid extrude of that. Same is true with lofts, sweeps, everything else. So I'm going to loft from here as a solid to here. Now, if you looked at that coffee grinder I had in my hand earlier, it was a little more sophisticated. So I'm going to pop this so it's normal to the profile. Maybe I'll go back to sketch 2, which is where that 3/8 was. And I want to see what happens when I hit the final button. The final button will give me the ability to see changes happen on the fly as it's like an advanced preview, right? So I can do things like that. So I can pop this out, maybe 1.5 magnitude now. Now we're getting a pretty cool shape here in place, right? So that's a little bit weird. I'm going to call that 10 millimeters. I like the way that looks better. All right. And, I'll drop in a couple fillet radii. I'll just do a window select and I can tell it to be 15 millimeters. So pretty typical at this point, right? Nothing mind blowing except that you haven't had to install anything and you haven't needed any sort of, license, you just sign in essentially, right? It's much easier than a traditional system. It's also saving everything for you. That's something that's mind-blowingly different. It's not autosave. It's a database. We're not working with files in Onshape. Onshape is very much like Google Doc, which represents what looks like files, but they're not really C:\files that you would find on your hard drive. It's database-driven information. So we're working with a database. We're working on an Amazon AWS. Everything's hosted there. And as you hit any green check mark or close anything out, it's saving that action in the database, right? It's not saving a copy of a file. It's saving that action to the database. So all those things are automatically captured here. And you can even label versions in time. Like here we are at version 1 of the design. But maybe I want to try out different design alternatives, correct? Right? I might want to branch. I want to do a design for manufacturability study. Maybe I want to do design for, the styling. Spell it right. Style. There we are. All right. So we have 2 branches. Now, why would I do this? Now, first of all, I want to, before I go into these branches, I want to ask a question of one of my colleagues, Debbie, the designer, right? I can add a comment directly to the face here and I can at her in, right? Just like I keep saying it, Google Docs, right? I'm going to say, hey, Debbie, can you add style here? And I can even assign that to her as a task. I can point to things. I could maybe show what I want it to sort of look like in this markup. So all I did was pick the markup button. I picked that face and I hit assign, and it's going to share that with Debbie. Add that comment contextually. And if I go to Debbie's window, this is Mike on the left side and Debbie is signed in on the left. And if she goes to the comments that are the newest first, look what's at the top. She's in her action items page. She can get to that by going to her icon right here and choosing action items if you're on a pro account, or if you're in an enterprise account, you get it up here. But it's just that you can still get to it no matter which version of Onshape you're using. But I can view that comment. And now both Debbie and Mike are looking at the exact same thing, which obviously is completely and utterly impossible in any other CAD system, because other CAD systems run on files. No 2 people can open the same file at once. That breaks the rules of file-based physics, right? So in Onshape, because it's database, we can do different things now because we're not juggling those C:\/ files. There's a question here from Joshua. Is it accurate to say that the only time a file is created is if you exported to a standard format for production or translation to some other specialized. Yeah, I guess that would be a fair thing to say. If you need to export an STL or 3D print this, of course you can do that, right? My apologies for the Garmin link not working well with StreamYard. But it's good to see you here, Michael. We should have tested that earlier. My apologies. I should have recommended that. Anyway, I'm going to keep going. So right now, both Debbie and Mike, the manager who signed in on this screen, we're both looking at the same document at once, as if it were on our desks. And right now, Debbie only has view only because that's the default level of sharing that happens. But when you're in this mode, we call this a follow mode. It's useful for design reviews, no matter where you are in the world. So I could double click. Let's say I'm Debbie in the blue window. I can see a photo of Mike in here, right? Because Mike's also in the document. I can double click Mike's face. And now anything that Mike does, Debbie is going to see as far as view manipulation goes, right? And, Debbie can take her point of view back anytime. Now, she can comment back, yes, I like this idea. Let me have edit rights. So here's the sharing permissions Mike has control over right now. And he's automatically provisioned Debbie in by adding that comment with view only rights. But maybe we'll give Debbie edit permission as well. Not copy. We don't want copies of this floating around. We don't want link. Link would allow me to use this coffee grinder in another design. Export, that would be to export it to a 3D printer, manufacturing process, whatever it might be. We're not ready for that, so I'm not going to allow export. Guess what? No other CAD system can stop you from doing it. Even the most sophisticated PDM system in the world that controls your data is still not going to stop you from exporting a file that you can get onto your hard drive. In fact, when you check a file out in any PDM system, dirty secret, it's going to your hard drive, and that file's now not on the server. And, the PDM and the local drive are negotiating with each other for what's the latest, and you get notified of when changes happen. But here, there is no file on your desktop. So we can do many different and better things because it's centrally managed in one place instead of multiple places. So I'm just going to let me get off my soapbox there. I'm going to edit. I'm going to let Debbie edit and comment. So I'll refresh her browser. And now you can see that she has a toolbar just like Mike does. And we can both edit together. Now, maybe Debbie wants this to be a 25 millimeter radius instead. Mike can see that Debbie is working on that fillet. Maybe this radius shouldn't be just a rolling ball radius. Maybe it should be a curvature continuous radius at a magnitude of 0.6, right? To make it blend with some acceleration a little bit there, right? Is it a partial fillet? Is it a variable radius? Is it asymmetric? There's lots of options. So there we are. And of course, we're seeing that update live. And I can see in the history tree, the version tree, I should say, that Debbie was the one to make that change. But we didn't see us lock files or check things in and out or anything like that. We're both able to work at the same time without any issues. We can also work on branching as well. So if I go to the style branch, or actually Mike's going to go to the DFM, Debbie's going to go to style. Now remember, I'm going to go back here to Debbie's window full screen. I created that branch before I started editing that stuff in the fillet. So that fillet is still back at the old fillet here. I can take everything I did in main and merge it in right here. We'll do another merge in the other direction later. But now B2 has that merge for main, and now we have that new updated fillet radius curvature continuous at 25 millimeters. Right. Very good. So the next step right here, Debbie is doing that work. She's going to just whip in a surface by creating a quick spline. Of course, we have all sorts of spline interrogation tools. We can see the quality of the curves and surfaces and Onshape. I like this shape right here. I'm going to use this to split, actually not split the sketch, but split a, you see I'm just typing in commands at the top here, the common way of working. I'm just going to split all of these faces. I'll do a window select, crossing window select, and that curve. And now we have this nice kind of wrapped surface right around the model that I can manipulate using direct editing tools. So Onshape has parametric feature-based modeling and direct modeling. So I'll just pop over here and tell that to be 5 millimeter offset and pop those surfaces out. So very quickly we have that. Now Mike, on the other hand, let's go to his window. If I could work with 4 hands, I would right now, but I can't. So let's on this side, he's working on the DFM branch separate from Debbie, right? So we're not seeing any of Debbie's work here. We could all work in the same branch, as you saw evidenced earlier, but sometimes it makes sense to kind of divvy up the work and work on each thing, right? So I'm going to do a surface with this as the revolve axis and this as the the actual surface to revolve. I don't want to go all the way around. Let me just do symmetric at like 30 degrees. That should be fine. Yeah. And I'm going to replace this face right here with that face right here. And I'll just pick it and hit the letter Y on my keyboard. That hides it, but the surface is there. And I'm also going to use the same plane that I used to create the loft earlier and split this into 2 parts. And this is also a very interesting thing that Onshape is going to be doing here, because now we have multi-part modeling, right? We have part 1, which I'm going to call the base, and part 2, which is what I'm going to call the cover. And of course, the cover, we're change the appearance of it, make it clear. Actually, let's set the material on it so we get accurate weights and measures. So maybe we're 3D printing this and I can go to my Formlabs database of material, or, maybe I'll, you can import your own material libraries. Of course, here's the Onshape library. I'll set this as acrylic. So acrylic there. And let's just round this off 5 millimeters. So we're looking pretty good here. But this is wildly different than what we have on the DFM branch in the style branch, right? So I can hit this button at the top of the tree here to compare this against that. So this is showing us all the things that are different between the merges, right? So we have style, DFM, we can show an animation of what is different. We can obviously see the fillets are wildly different. We see, newer features and features that weren't here. But, all of these situations, we have 3 situations of things that need to merge. In other CAD systems, right, if you did this, you would do a save as copy, then replace, and there's no way to merge changes from different files, right? It's just, whatever one overwrites the other, that's what wins. In Onshape, there's a number of rules that apply. In fact, I'm going to go to my main branch and I'm going to just go and merge the style in, and it's showing us Part Studio 1, is pretty much the same except for the new additional features. And then DFM, I'll merge that into my main space. It's merging changes from both. In the Part Studio, it will merge the entire document. If you had many different tabs, it's going to show you everything here, and you can choose whether you want to merge from the main document and do it all at once, or just keep what you want as well. But it guesses the best strategy for you, and then you can change it, obviously, if need be. And now we have the best of both worlds because it's merging the feature trees together. It's not trying to merge files together. It's trying to merge the feature trees together. So that's what's happening. That's why the merge is so successful. And of course, there are situations geometrically that would not be possible to solve, and it would try to merge it and it wouldn't be able to, and you'd have a red feature in your tree, and you would go back and edit the feature just like any other feature-based CAD and fix it at that point in time. Or you just go back and restore to any point in time in the past. So it's completely fearless design, right? You never have to worry about doing something wrong or breaking anything and experimenting with something, because you have the full history of every single edit you've ever done for the entire history of the document forever and ever. I could go back to 2016 in my document and do that, right? Not since the last time I closed the application like it is in most systems. Let me just go back. Here's the restore. I'll restore before the restore, right? So I'm back to where I was. And I'll set that as version 2 of my design. But we're still in an open workspace and we can continue to move forward. There is a sheet metal area of Onshape. I'm happy to, actually, I have a sheet metal part that I'm going to insert here in just a minute. So I'll get to that in just a second. All right. So next, I'm going to pick that to shell this right here. I'm going to shell this part too. You can shell multiple parts. It's not a problem. We're not working with files. There's no limitation there. There we are. So there's 2 parts now in place. And I want to start getting things made, for modeling and manufacturing. And we'll start inserting the rest of the parts in this design. I want to create a drawing of this cover, because the cover is a long lead time item. It's going to be a molded part. It's acrylic. So I'm going to need to send this out to my local shop that's going to help me with this. So I'll create a 4-view drawing, stick it on a B-size piece of paper, and go from there. All right, so we got the cover drawing. We're going to just put a dimension on it. Maybe we'll put some tolerances in. So, professional system, right? You're going to have, all those kind of things. Let's do shaded view here. We'll stick a rev block up here. Everything's filling out in the title block, of course. You notice what's not in here yet is a part number, right? So let's take care of this. So we have the cover. We set the material. We haven't set the part number yet. Every part has properties, right? So if I go to the properties of it, here's the part number generator right here. So if you have a professional account or higher, you have an automatic part number generator. The free account, you would just type in a number. Here I would tell it if I want it to be in the BOM, rev controlled. It's telling me the weight already right here. So all this can be customized as well. So I like that. And one other thing I'm going to do, I like the cover the way it is. I'm going to export a cover as a step file. E-cover step, I'll just call it, and I'll store it as a tab in the document. All right. So I'm getting into this. So there's a couple of ways we could go about this, depending on the relationship level you have with your vendors that you work with, right? You could just share this entire document in with your vendor, right? Your sheet metal vendor, or mold vendor, or whatever it is. You can view only, comment, even export. You can let them do the export to their program if they want to. Or you can see what I did here is I put the step in the cover here. That's another thing. Yeah, there's all sorts of different things you could do depending on what your level of comfort is. It's flexible. And the other thing I'm going to do is go to this cover drawing and release it. Let me just refresh the drawing so you can see the part number show up on it. There we are, 3364. So I want to release this under an ECO. I'll just type that in there. I forgot the letter E there. There we are. And I'm going to release this. This is something that's in the professional version. There's a free version and there's professional enterprise. The professional enterprise gives you like the PDM things, right? So I'm just going to control this at rev A. I'm going to get part number for the drawing. And I'm going to release this right now with that same ECO number. I'll just release it myself. But I could have workflow approvals with people signing off on it for me. Like Debbie could sign off, whoever I decide to sign off. You can see it actually signs it off on the drawing right here. There it is. If I click into here, that's showing me the moment in time at that ECO, right here, and who signed off on it and when, and the title block's up to date and everything. But the main is the work in progress, the open circle. So hopefully, you saw the conflicting message thing, right? I saw the question here again, just on the merge conflicts, right? Just want to make sure we understand that from before. The merge conflicts is never really a conflict. A change could happen. A change could break the feature tree. You would need to go in and either edit the feature tree or just revert before the merge happened. Really, those are your two options there for merge conflicts. All right, anyway, we're going to keep going. I'm going to go to, we have the part, 2 parts right here. We have a drawing. Now I want to build an assembly. I'm going to rename the assembly. We'll call this the coffee grinder. And I'm going to insert the base, which is a work in progress. And you see the triangle here? I'm going to insert the work in progress, or the released version of the cover, because I don't want that to change at all. So that's kind of locked right here because it's a released part at Rev A. But the base is still able to be changed. And you notice that I need a lot more stuff in the base. I'm going to hide this for a second, and I'm going to fix this in place. You might ask why I needed an assembly in the first place. The assembly is a place where you build your bill of materials, your relationships between the parts, the correct item count, so on and so forth. The part studio is where you design the parts, right? So that's the way we did it in Onshape to keep things very separate. I want to insert more parts that don't live inside of this document. So I'll go to other documents, and then I can just browse into my company, to my recently opened, to public, right? I can go into my company here and search for an assembly named motor. There it is. I have released gear motor Rev B, and I can insert, right? Maybe I want to insert something else. I want to insert a sheet metal blade, right? Blade assembly. Oh, let me just check that again. There we are. There's the blade. I'll just drop that out in the space. We'll fix this in the space, right? Or fix the motor. I dropped it on the origin, so it's located where I want right now. But this is not. Let me look at, I'll show you the assembly process, and I'll show you the details of sheet metal here in just a second. So I want to mate this in. So to mate things in Onshape, first it feels very weird, but it's much faster once you get used to it, because it's 1 mate per part typically versus 3. As I hover over this part, it's waking up these little datum looking symbols. I'm going to click this edge, which shows me there's a datum symbol, which shows me there's a center being woken up there. So it's dynamically highlighting, nothing predefined. It's just using a little AI and looking at the geometry. And I want that to be centered on that. And I want to flip it so that the D-shaped cutout of the hole matches the flat right there. And that's it. It's fully mated, right? So if I take that and spin it, it's going to move, and that's just 1 mate. I can even go back into the mate and offset anything in there, right? If I want it to go, 5 millimeters lower or higher, from the center. I could do that kind of stuff too. All right. The sheet metal part in general, let's go to the blade. I'll open, I can see, I can open up this document right here, and it'll open up in another tab, and it's showing me the ECO that it came from. Let me go to the main. But this is made of sheet metal, 2 parts modeled together. I did a layout of just the layout in 2D like that, top shape, bottom shape. They were just slightly different dimensions. And then here I have a piece of sheet metal where I can go ahead and extrude that piece of sheet metal with a flat pattern at the same time, right? So there's my flat pattern, there's the folded state, and it's all, updating together. So there's no flapping back and forth between the different states. So it's a very different, well, it really isn't that different. I mean, this is nice because you don't have to flap back and forth to see the flat pattern in the folded state, and you can even work in the folded view like that. If I just hit that and extrude it, I can make a cut, across there if I really wanted to, and I can see it in both states at the same time. You see it's doing a normal cut. It's not cutting it like it was on the laser in the folded state. It's cutting it like it was in the laser in the flat state, right? If you want to do it in the other direction, you would just cut it here, on the 3D. But it's all the same data. It's just looking at it in two different orientations. And of course, you can export, you can make your drawings, as well as export your manufacturing flat patterns from here. Actually, let me show you that. Just right click here in the flat view and choose DXF output right here. And you can store the DXFs in Onshape, which is really nice too. It gives you the full preview of the layers that are output from Onshape. And, if you needed to, you might change the layer names and stuff, after you pull it out of Onshape. But there it is. It's right there. When you share that with somebody, they're going to be able to look at this and export it if you gave permission, which I didn't. There we are. So that's the blade. So that blade's in place. Let me just put this down at 5 millimeters. That looks stupid. All right, there we are. The next step is, let me turn on the cover again. You can have other kind of moving relationships. Like if I want a simplified kind of hinge here, just defining a common interface right now, I can hover over this edge right here, hover over this edge here, and I'm going to use a revolute mate. And now, it's mated, so this thing kind of hinges here. Of course, now I would define the actual, mechanical elements to make that hinge, but I can actually define it using this nice common interface, using these high-level mates first to define my motion before I even get to the, hardcore pieces that require them, the actual hinge components to be there. So it's cool that you can do that as well. Bill of materials is all here in the assembly. So here, let's move this around. You can add columns to this, right? Here I can set the part numbers from here as well. The base didn't get a material yet. I'm going to make that out of aluminum. I'm editing the BOM from material in the BOM from the BOM, which seems logical. You can have customized lists of things as well, that you can apply properties to. So I like the way this is looking so far. We got these parts, purchase parts, flattened BOM, structured BOM. You can dial down in. Right, there we are. Let's continue by adding an exploded view to this. So let's see, maybe not. Let's go over here. Position, simulation, variables. Oh yeah, global variables. Global variables are really nice because they allow you to have a set of parameters that control multiple things in this document or even outside this document, right? So like if you wanted the shell thickness, I could just say shell, and I'm going to say 0.125, and I could actually go back over here to this part studio and edit that shell and call it hashtag, and you see shell shows up right there. So you can have one nice kind of notebook of all of your variables in this kind of book here that control everything here in your document or even outside the document. So it's global variables, if you will. I see some questions coming in. Can you address cloud-based storage of Onshape? Might be concerning. Right. Okay. That is a very good point. So Onshape is cloud native, right? There's nothing to install on your computer. There's no files on your hard drive. So how is that secure? Well, Onshape is running everything on AWS, right? AWS is fairly high security. Amazon Web Services. It's what most modern companies use for their web hosting. Any major product that's cloud based, like a Facebook or anything like that, they're using AWS, right? It's like the most well-known, used, and trustworthy web hosting provider out there. They do amazing things for security. They have armed guards in their data centers. They have all sorts of other encryption and things. But Onshape takes it much further because of the way we built the data, right? We're not dealing in files that are being lobbed around. The moment you create a file and send it out, you have no control anymore, and that data is gone, and it becomes very hard to keep purview over it. Everything's encrypted in Onshape at rest. There is no file that you can possibly intercept. When you share, you're setting exactly the level of permission you want your colleagues to have. There's no way for anybody to do anything with this data because they can't intercept a file, right? It's a database. They would have to figure out how to uncode the entire Onshape structure and essentially build their own Onshape client, which would take a really long time, I think, to do, to figure out how to break into that. And we, of course, have many levels of checking, and we pay, white hat, white glove hackers, to look at honeypots, and there's all sorts of stuff that we're doing to protect data in the system that it will make it much more secure than what I would hazard to guess any IT department at any manufacturing company could do. There's no way that a traditional IT department could construct a system that's more secure than this. Now, there are certain places where we can't say, we can work, like if you had like ITAR work for the military or things like that, they're not comfortable with this because they have rules and regulations and a lot of red tape that, even though this is more secure, the rules haven't caught up to IT security and stuff. So I would say that this is a much more secure system. And obviously you should check with your clients that you're doing work with, but if you explain to them that the benefits of Onshape and the way you share things, right, this makes it much more secure, and you're going to know where your data is. If you have the enterprise plan, which a lot of our larger companies do, this would provide extremely beneficial oversight over where your IP is living and who has access to it. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting a report of every bit of design activity that I've done in my demonstration company in the entire year of 2020. And I can see at a project, at a document level, at a release level, what's going on with my data, how long, where the data has been opened from. If I'm not expecting, somebody to be opening up data in Japan, that would lead me to ask questions. I can see right there, it says failed sign in 0. This person's probably pretty good. They're trustworthy. They signed in initially the first time and got access to the data, probably because I gave them access to the data. All right. So the thing that's also different about Onshape is that there is no files, though. And having no files enables this collaborative workflow that you were able to see with Debbie and Mike working together. So even if you did have a setup that dealt with putting your CAD system and your PDM server in cloud hosted environment, even on AWS, which I know some people do, it still wouldn't yield the benefits of the collaborative, like total collaborative workflow working on the same file at the same time. Now, most people aren't working in the same parts at the same time. Where it really shines is where it comes into assembly modeling, right? If you think about building a piece of machinery and you have like 15 engineers working on it, you have some people working on a common like frame across that piece of machinery where different subsystems are drilling holes into it. You'd have to wait back and forth until somebody can check in and check out and manage it for that situation to occur. Whereas in Onshape, it's more like the Google Docs style where people can work together simultaneously. So that's one difference I'd like to make sure is clear. But yeah, we're happy to, if your company is, interested in Onshape and has high levels of security questions, we're happy to go through security assessments. We have SOC 2 type 2 security in some of the most famous companies in the world have their IP in Onshape. It's something that we're very serious about, and we're happy to do deep dives into that. Another good question. How does Onshape warn you when merging two feature trees? Let's go back to that again because we get the question again here. So, when I go back over here, and in fact, let me just do it on a very simple example. So I'm going to start right here and branch right from the very get-go. We'll call this branch 1, and we have main. And I'll just create a block here. C for circle. And there we are. We're in our main branch, right? And I'm going to go branch 1. I'm going to take everything I did and merge from main, just so we have both the same thing right now. B1 and main are the same. On B1 now, I am going to fillet that. On main, I'm going to chamfer that. Okay. So what happens? I'm going to go back to, actually, let me go back to main here. I'm going to go from B1 and I'm going to merge B1 in the main. It's going to try to merge changes from both. It's not going to give me any warning that this fillet or chamfer is not going to work. It's just going to tell me what strategy I should be using. Should I keep main? Should I replace with B1? Or should I try to merge changes of both? That's the default. Now it's going to try, but it's not going to know what to do with the fillet and the chamfer, right? You see the fillet, is right here. Now it even gives me this message right away. If I like click it and it doesn't look good, I can click this button and it'll go right back before the merge happened, like nothing occurred. Or you can see this: do I want the fillet or do I want the chamfer? What if I reorder it? I don't know. It could be, which one do I want? Well, I would just, either do this, modify it, change it, just or delete it, right? Because it didn't make sense. I'm going to going with the fillet, and that's my next version that I'm interested in keeping. So that's really, what happens. So when we go through our training, we have a learning center right here that we encourage all new users to jump through. We teach that in our self-paced courses, to how to do selective branching, selective merging, because it is a new paradigm. It's for mechanical in the world of digital and like software and stuff. This is very common way of working. This is the branched GitHub, Gitflow style way of doing version control. And we've adopted that for mechanical, agile mechanical development. This is what, some of the, if you need to work fast, people are embracing agile techniques, and agile, you're making changes very often, and you need a way of capturing those changes to keep track with the vast, rapid pace of change. This is made for that. So hopefully that makes sense with the merging, and it's really There's nothing to fear, with it. Some other stuff too that I didn't, I'm kind of going a little bit around here. I'm going to do some import and stuff in a second. Here's just a slightly more advanced assembly with some motion, and you can do all this motion here. You can configure things as well. So configuring is nice because you can have the same model with multiple representations of it. So in this case, I have different lengths of robot. I have different types of robot, and I have different amounts of beer in this cabinet, in this bin right here. You can see I'm able to work with that, and everything's updating quite nicely is because of the way configurations are made in Onshape. You can configure multiple things in a matrix instead of like a single spreadsheet, like most people do in CAD. They have an Excel spreadsheet or a spreadsheet looking interface in their CAD system. And Onshape, you can have multiple spreadsheets driving multiple objects to give you this kind of mesh-based configurable capability. There's some other questions coming in. Free versus standard version. Here we are. The free version is quite good. Okay, so you're going to be able to do all of the CAD things that I've shown you today, including import and export in the free version. You can configure things. You can assemble things. The things that change once you start going into the paid versions is what happens with your IP. So we have a professional, a standard, and an enterprise plan, and an education plan too. The free plan, all the CAD, you do all the CAD you want. Standard plan, made really for single person consultants, gives you privacy over it. So in the free plan, nothing is private. Okay, just make that clear. Everything is public. So if you were on the free plan, your designs are public and they will show up in here. Now, if they're truly kind of hobby projects, that's totally great. Share it with the community. You're learning CAD for free. Great. You're using CAD for free. Great. But if you need your own privacy, that's where you start paying for a subscription in the professional, the standard, or standard, pro, and enterprise. So standard, first level up, gives you privacy over your documents. Professional gives you a whole set of tools that like companies would need for data management, like PDM, like that revision control stuff I showed. That's part of professional and enterprise. Makes sense, right? As a company, you need these kind of things. Plus, you're getting other things. You're getting simulation, stress analysis, right? You're getting rendering, built-in cloud rendering for. I'll show you an example of rendering that I was able to do with that VR wand, right? That's a rendering that was output from the Onshape rendering. And that's, it's not going to melt your computer. So yeah, it's very important to know the differences, right? The free version, everything is public. The standard version, that's where you start getting different levels of protection over the data. So very, very good question. But, there's millions of people using the free version for all manner of projects. There's maker spaces in schools. This has become extremely popular in the schools, obviously, right? Because look what I'm running this on. I'm running this on a Mac. So you can run this on anything. Chromebook, right? Guess that's a very popular device in schools now, is to use a Chromebook. But I prefer a Mac because I'm a photographer on the side. So I do photo editing and I have the Adobe products. So it's nice. You can use this on your phone or iPad or Android device. There's an app in the App Store that gives you the touch-based interface layer for Onshape, but the data still resides in the cloud and everything else is still the same. You can do the follow mode. You can import, export. You can do CAD. You can do PDM. It's all there. Is it true that you can't use the free version to make money? So if you're creating that, there's nothing that I know of that says you can't do that, but your data is public. So it's like, it depends what you're looking at there. So in the last few months, we're really looking at embracing the free community, right? The free community more and more. So we're not worried about that. We're not worried about people making money with the free version. It's up to you. If you want the data public, that's totally fine. There's lots of open source projects, right? That people use Onshape for, and that's totally logical to use the open source and the free version and have everything public. So we're totally happy for people to be using the free version of Onshape to do whatever they're comfortable doing. But if you're really doing hardcore work and your public IP is out there in public, that's where you need to make the decision if you want to use it as your professional go-to tool. Importing. Let me just talk about one other thing, because I think, Bruce, you mentioned something about importing. So let me show you what happens when we import something into Onshape. Here are my imports. So you get a choice or two here on how you want to import it. I like importing into a single part studio if it's something small. And if I'm going to make an edit to it, and there it is. It just imported it, and there it is. You're not going to get a feature tree. That's not going to happen. It's proprietary to whatever the CAD system is. And in this case, it was a step file. So you're not going to get a feature tree anyway. But that doesn't mean it's bad. I can do things with this. So I can use direct editing on this. I can take this face and move it. And look what it was smart enough to do. It pulled the fillet along with it for the ride, because it was looking, using a little bit of intelligence here behind the scenes. It said reapply fillet. Even though there was no Onshape fillet here, it determined there was a fillet, and it worked with it. So you can do all sorts of different selections. I can say I want to find all holes that are of the same size, select patterns of those, add that to a selection, and maybe I don't want that hole anymore. I want to delete it, right? And there it is, it's gone. So it's very easy to work with a non-feature based model in Onshape, and then reassemble it and add mates, because the mates are very easy in Onshape, as you saw, to put together, things like that. And if the model were imported, if you wanted to import or update the model again, you can update the original step file. So here's V2 of a step file. Try that again. There we are. And it will update anything you did plus the changes that you worked on. So you see, it kept the two changes that I made. This delete face went a little wonky, so I would need to address it. But for the most part, it did pretty good, right? It's because these holes were the actual things that moved in the new version that came from that previous step file. So you can import almost any standard format CAD file. Even mesh data comes into Onshape from STL and OBJ and things like that. Complex surfaces are very easy, in Onshape, I would say. If I went back to that wand and making edits to that, let's as you make edits and changes to this, I made this 2.2. This, well, actually, that's not a very advanced change. That's just a circle. Let me cancel that. This one will be good. I know we're over time a little bit. I have a couple of minutes before I have to get to my next one, but I'll wrap up with a couple of these last questions here. Where is that? Here we are. Button outline. What I'm looking for is the curve that controls this location. I can't remember what I called it. Oh, there it is. Reference back adjust. Or did I use that with a fit spline? Well, yeah, here we go. So I've hit the final button. The final button's your friend when you're doing like push-pull crazy modeling with surfaces, right? So as I start modifying this shape, I can change the magnitude of this shape right here. Let's see, it's rebuilding the full tree. A little trick is to roll. Let me cancel that. We'll roll to here. So that way you don't have to rebuild the whole model while you're making changes, right? Now I can go to that reference back, adjust sketch, hit the final button. This is a Bezier spline. Got the curve analysis right here. You can also share curvature visualization, color mapping. So you can really get a, you can see the control point grid overlaid over this if you need to. You can see where the tight curve radii are. But yeah, there's a number of tools here to help you create advanced surfacing. We've worked really hard in the last 18 months to address the needs of people that need advanced, consumer product design, right? And yeah. And we can totally import stuff from like McMaster-Carr. Like it's very easy to import from McMaster-Carr because, it's in the browser as well. So you just, I love being able to go here to McMaster and get stuff. Let's say I needed let's go to pins. I want, and we provide a number of pieces of hardware too in Onshape, but I'm going to say I'll just download it in SolidWorks format, right? I'll just download an SLD PRT and import that. Go to my downloads here. There we are. So there's the original SolidWorks import, and it's also going to give us the pin from McMaster-Carr. So, that's, we don't have any integration or anything. It's just, it's just easy to import stuff. There's even a Chrome add-in for, I forgot about that. Yeah, there's an extension for Chrome that lets you plug, like put a McMaster-Carr thing right in your browser, and it makes it even easier than I showed you. So, but yeah, so if you want to, explore Onshape more, you can try the free version, of course. You just go to onshape.com/free. I'm not sure if we have any other special things we've done with your group though. So that's something that I'm not remembering because it's the end of my long presentation. But just reach out. Michael, thank you for having us. It's great to be able to show Onshape to the group. I hope it has some utility for your organization, and if there's future things, questions, I'm the person you'll reach out to. I'll put my email address here in the chat. So my email address is there in the chat in case you need anything, have any further questions. So I really want to thank you. Sorry for the issues with the StreamYard. It's something I've been using a lot lately. I thought it would be good, but so always interesting to deal with the corporate security stuff and everything. So thanks a lot, and I really appreciate everybody's positive feedback here. So have a great afternoon. Talk to you later.